and gentlemen, our national anthem sung by our own Cortland Wood.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, those broad skies and bright stars through the perilous fight, for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bomb bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Now I pledge allegiance led by Mayor Tom Barrett.
I pledge allegiance
I now present Father Wilfred DeRush, pastor of St. Patrick's Church in Robin Point.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. O Almighty God, as we gather here to share in this meal you so graciously give us, we ask that as our bodies are nourished by this food, you may help us to be faithful to your commandments. We pray that in your loving kindness you may bestow your choicest blessings upon our governor, George Pataki, who has been elected to direct the people of our beloved state of New York. Place in his heart and mind a strong love for your law, so that his rule may reflect your divine wisdom, your justice, and your kindness for all. As we are privileged, O Lord, to live in a country you so blessed in countless ways, where we are free to choose those who represent us in the government of our great country and noble state. We also humbly ask that you bless and assist our Senator, Ronald Stafford, and our Assemblyman, Chris Ortloff, and all others who are appointed to help and improve the condition of the people of this fine state of ours. Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Thank you very much, Father. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the residents of the village of Rouses Point and of the Northern Tier, I am honored to welcome everyone to this beautiful village on the top of the Lake Champlain Historical Corridor. This lovely village possesses some geographic uniqueness as it borders not only another state, but also another country. I know the governor was privileged to drive around the area earlier this evening, even drove over the new bridge, and I know that he thinks that we are living in God's country. For those who are not familiar with Rouses Point is the home of Wyeth Ayres Laboratories, a pharmaceutical manufacturing concern, who is also one of our county's largest employers. We appreciate the opportunity to welcome our Governor, George Pataki, and to host this year's Republican dinner. It is an honor to host such a prestigious occasion. And now it is my privilege to introduce a man who needs no introduction. It is a pleasure for me to introduce Senator Ronald Stafford, our Toastmaster for this program. I could speak for more than an hour about Ron Stafford's accomplishments in the North Country, but I know that he would not want me to do that. However, there are several things I would like to mention about the senator that you may or may not know. Senator Stafford was first elected to the New York State Senate in 1965. The 45th senatorial district, which he represents, includes 6 counties and is the largest Senate district in the state, occupying nearly 17% of New York State's total territory. The senator has had widespread support among the nearly 300,000 people whom he represents during more than 30 years of dedicated representation. While the senator has done many things for the North Country, too numerous to mention, perhaps one of his most outstanding accomplishments occurred when he led a major effort which brought the 1980 Winter Olympics to Lake Placid in his role as chairman of the New York State 1980 Winter Olympics Games Commission. And on a more local vein, I would be very remiss if I didn't acknowledge the senator's efforts, which contributed to the refurbishing of this Civic Center, in which we are very proud to host this gathering this evening. Ron Stafford is a warm and caring man who is devoted to the people of the North Country. We are fortunate to have him representing us in the New York State Senate. And it is an honor and a privilege for me to introduce our Toastmaster and State Senator, Ronald B. Stafford.
Friends all. Again, the governor showed very good judgment. When John was being so kind to me and introducing me, the governor leaned over and said, he obviously doesn't know you. I have a very, very pleasant past here this evening, but I can't stand here. It will be said a number of times this evening, but it shouldn't be said. To travel with our chief executive today throughout northern New York and see his concern, his understanding, his compassion. He understands our aims, our aspirations. He understands all of New York State. And it's certainly heartening. And Governor, welcome. It's so wonderful to have you here with us, and also John. And you'll be introduced many times, but I have to say that it's good. And of course, I'm pleased to be here in Rouses Point, where there's no longer a toll on the bridge. I will introduce the head table. But the governor's insisted, and others have insisted, because a couple people here haven't heard the money joke. I'll tell it quickly, and then I'll get on with my job. But it goes like this very quickly. There was a housewarming a couple of years ago that we attended, and it was marked. And the lady of the house explained during the pre-prandial libation that if it wasn't for her money, we wouldn't have this beautiful deck in this beautiful, beautiful home. And we got in the dining room, and there was a bit of spirits, a great evening, good food, but she said a number of times quite directly and loudly, by that time, if it wasn't for my money, we wouldn't have this dining room, we wouldn't have this beautiful home. Finally, during the post-prandial libation, which was done in the family room, it got rather boisterous, almost to the point of embarrassment, and she said, you know, if it wasn't for my money, a number of times, we wouldn't have this beautiful home. Finally, we left, and as usual, I left my hat and coat. I wear a hat. And anyway, I was in the vestibule, taking up my hat and coat, and the gentleman of the room was talking to her in the kitchen. He said, you know, honey, everything you said here tonight is true, but if it wasn't for your money, I wouldn't be here. Now, we have a very, very fine head table. We have an excellent head table, I might say. And I'm extremely honored to introduce first, on my right and on your left, a gentleman that hails from, you got it, Rouses Point, former New York State trooper, practicing attorney in Denimore, town attorney of Ellenburg, also grandson of Huey Phillips, cut corn with my father, Thompson Farm, as you know, bordered on Huey Phillips' farm. Drew Polk with him when he was a young man. But I introduce to you our great candidate for DA, Mike Bellows. Mike, welcome home. A gentleman who's getting over his shyness. Down there in Plattsburgh, he's learning what it's all about. Always has a smile, does his job, a pleasure to work with, a pleasure to call a friend, married to Denimore, a girl, John Zerlo. And on his right, a gentleman that I'm so proud to introduce. A gentleman that our governor appointed Supreme Court Justice. A gentleman who is serving in the great tradition of our Supreme Court judges here in our 4th Judicial District. John Latin will always be fair, he'll always listen, and there's no finer scholar. John Latin, Judge Latin. And on his left is a gentleman who was working with the Senate when he had left working for Congressman John Weidler. Came up and worked with us, did a great job, and I gave him $25. But when he ran for the Assembly, when he won, at times I say it's $250, at times $2,500, the last it was $25,000. Does a great job in the Assembly. A colleague of Chris Orloff, John Passo. And I'll have some good things to say about the next two gentlemen in just one moment. But over to my left, a lady who, if she'd had an opponent, would have passed that opponent like he or she was pitched to a post. A lady who does a great job as county treasurer. She's professional. She has good relatives. No. I'm one. And I have to say to you, again, but it can't be said enough, we're so proud to have Janet Dutry, our county treasurer, our Republican county treasurer, and our county treasurer running without opposition, Janet Dutry. Don Garrett, on her right, indefatigable. If there are 28 hours in the day, Don would be working 28 hours. He's a professional. He believes in what he's doing. He believes in anything he does. The epitome of sincerity. Made commitments when he was made the chairman of the county legislature. Those commitments were met. Whenever any of us need any help, whenever we need any support, he's always there. Our great chairman of the County Board of Legislators, Don Garrett. On his left, a gentleman who's traveling with the governor, who serves the governor faithfully, who's been a great Republican, is close to our state chairman, has been the labor commissioner who worked his way through law school, who understands labor, who when any of us have questions, those of us in the legislature, he's always there, a true professional, understands government. The governor's so fortunate to have him, and I can only say that John Sweeney is the epitome of a good Republican and a good public servant. John Sweeney. I have to apologize. The only reason I sort of thought there before I mentioned, I had to think whether it was Secretary of Labor or Commissioner of Labor. But we're very pleased, and we'd make you even. Right, Governor? Or both. And finally, a lady who I serve with, who Chris serves with, who hails from Warren County. She was on the County Board of Supervisors before being elected to the Assembly. A person who is a tireless worker, who's put 1,000 miles on her car in the last 36, 48, what's 3 times 24? Whatever that is, the last 3 days. She's been traveling, I believe it's 72. I can only say to you, I'm so proud to serve with Betty Little, because Betty is always working, always thinking of our area, and whenever you need to have someone to put their shoulder to the wheel on behalf of our area as a state, Betty Little is there. Assemblyperson Betty Little. Great to have you. And I'd also like to introduce, also with us, Kathy Karen, Treasurer of the Clinton County Republican Women's Association, and Matt Dogal, President of the Plattsburgh State University College Republicans. Please stand. We now have the pleasure of the Mayor of Rouses Point, Tom, and he will have a presentation and gift for the governor. Mayor?
On behalf of the citizens of Rouses Point, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening. Tonight has been a very special in that this is the first occasion in 34 years that a sitting governor has journeyed this far north. It's just our luck that when one did find his way here, he was arguably the best governor our state has had since then. Thank you, Governor Pataki, for coming tonight. We've prepared a collage of scenes to remind you of your visit to Rouses Point. We'd like to just hang it over your mantle in Albany.
Also, we'd like to present additional gifts to the governor, and at this time, our chairman will present a very fine presentation, a fine gift to the governor, and I believe we have some Adirondack plate right here. All right, very good. Chris?
Governor, Adirondack chairs. Thank you.
Governor, we have some apples for you, and I have to say from Torrance Orchards, and they're as good as they look.
I'll be back. It's not going to take 34 years. I'm doing pretty well at it.
There we are. Christmas ornaments, thank you, Don. Christmas ornaments for the governor from the North Country Skating Club. Governor? We have some very fine lotions from a gift to the governor and Libby from Delagar. Finally, we have to compliment Terry Daniels. He really is a dedicated Republican, and he has a flag that shows the resurgence of the Republican Party here in upstate New York. Governor, it's a pleasure to present you with a flag which has been prepared with drums by Terry Daniels, and just as an example of the fine Republican he is and the Republicans we have in the North Country. A pleasure. The governor's very busy. It's a big state. Let me tell you, you travel around, you understand that. And I know all of you have. But we're so fortunate to have him here. He has, believe it or not one, two more commitments tonight before he gets back to Garrison. And that's the kind of job it is. And we're so fortunate that he's willing to give up himself, be as dedicated as he is. And I only say when I introduce the next gentleman who's going to introduce him, and it's always pleasant, I know Chris, I know Governor, when the people introducing talk longer than the people speaking. But I just say to you, think of it, think of it, think of it. 4 to 5 years before the governor took over, we lost 500,000 jobs in the state of New York. And since the governor's taken over, we have over 250,000 more jobs. About the gentleman who's going to introduce the governor, but I share with you, my friends, fellow Republicans, there isn't a more dedicated Republican, there isn't a more committed Republican, there isn't a more unselfish Republican. Yes, he runs himself, he gets elected, but he helps everybody. I've always said, again, I mentioned 28 hours again, if there were 28 hours in the day, he'd be working for us or on his computer doing something for somebody else, that 28 hours. I present to you our county chairman, who will introduce our guest of honor, the Honorable Chris Bartlow. Chris. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Ron, thank you all. I can't top the money joke, so I won't try. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker tonight is no stranger to Clinton County. Our speaker is no stranger to the people of the North Country. And he's no stranger to our values, our political philosophy, and our way of life. Even if that were all we could say about our speaker, that alone would be cause for celebration. But there's much, much more. Our speaker first came to Clinton County in a political capacity in 1989. He took the train to Plattsburgh from his home in Garrison. The train stops just down the hill from our speaker's home overlooking the Hudson River. And on a Saturday afternoon this time of year, from his front porch, you can hear the crowd in the stadium at West Point across the river. When he got off the train that day in Plattsburgh, to help Plattsburgh Republicans in one of the closest races we've ever had. You remember? Had lunch, dinner at the D&H, and then went to an appearance, and he made the point that we needed him to make. We elected a tax-cutting, reform-minded city councilman came that far from electing a mayor. He made a difference. He always does, as he's making a difference here tonight. Another time in 1991, our speaker stopped at a Republican rally in Ellenburg. Sam Trombley will never forget. Tonight, the festivities were still going on at the Ranchside Clubhouse, and we were on our way back from Ogdensburg about midnight. Our speaker stopped and stayed, and that visit's already gone down in local lore in Ellenburg. He made a difference there, too. This is his second time as guest speaker at a Clinton County Republican dinner. The first time was 1994. Then he was a candidate. His presence as a candidate filled the Knights of Columbus Hall. This crowd here tonight would fill the Knights of Columbus Hall 2.5 times over. What he's done in the meantime has made all the difference. We elected him to the highest office in the state that year, and from the moment he took the oath of office, he has made a difference. Each time, on each issue, he and we together under his leadership have defied the conventional wisdom. First, of course, conventional wisdom said an unknown, upstate, conservative freshman senator could never be elected at all. Well, a year later, conventional wisdom said that same fella as governor could never get a 3-year income tax past the Democrat-controlled assembly. But in spite of a multi-million-dollar campaign against the tax cuts, he led us to victory. And that alone has created hundreds of thousands of jobs. And the next year, the same conventional wisdom said he could never get workers' compensation reform past Sheldon Silver in the assembly. But we won that victory too, and that created even thousands of more jobs. And this year, when he said we would enact historic school property tax cuts for every residential homeowner in the state, the same conventional wisdom said, never happened. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our speaker took inspiration from General Ulysses S. Grant, who is quoted as having said, "I will fight on this line if it takes all summer," and it did take almost all summer. But school tax relief is now the law. Now, one of these events can be called a fluke or even a miracle, but 2, 3, 4 in a row, 4 years in a row of doing exactly what he says we're going to do has set conventional wisdom right on its head. You can call him a miracle worker if you wish, but I prefer to recognize him for the strength of his convictions, the tenacity with which he holds his position, and ours, because it is that character that won us our great victories. That character which is putting New York back to work. That character which leads our people to a new vision and a new era and a new return to the Empire State once again. I give you the 53rd Governor of the State of New York, George E. Pataki.
Wonderful community. And those governors who had a chance for 34 years that didn't show up, they don't know what they're missing. I'm going to come back time and again. It's great to be here. Father DeRoche, Senator Stafford, I think I have that order right. Not sure. Father DeRoche is a devout Catholic. I know has a direct pipeline to God. On the other hand, there are those in Albany who think that Ron Stafford is God. So, we know that's really not true. He's only our guardian angel up here in the North Country and in Albany. But Father DeRoche, Senator Stafford, Senator, thank you for all that you've done. To Chris and I got elected to the Assembly the same year together, and we've been partners ever since. And thank you for what you've done. And Betty Little, Betty's just an outstanding assemblywoman, and I'm just delighted that she is there working with us too. And they are partners of ours in government, and I have to thank them for working with us to make sure that this state moves forward. And there's another one up here who you might not know that well, who's also in the assembly, who also serves with me, named John Faso. John, when I got elected, headed up our transition committee looking at the budget and did a spectacular job. But more than that, some of you might remember back in 1994 when it was up in the air as to who the Republican nominee for governor was going to be. We had a very contentious convention. And John had spent 2 years crisscrossing this state, making the case as to why he should be the candidate for controller and making a very effective case. I came to him and said, for the sake of unity, for the sake of having a solid, unified ticket in November, I asked that you step down as a candidate for controller. He could have had the nomination. He could have won the election. But John Faso understood that changing the direction of this state in the governor's office was the most important thing, and he voluntarily stepped down. And John, I can never thank you enough, and the people of this state cannot thank you enough for what you did in 1994 today. Let me just begin by saying how much I've enjoyed today. I always loved coming up to the North Country. It seemed when I served in the legislature for a decade that too often the governor and the executive office didn't realize that New York State did not end at all. That it goes up not just to Plattsburgh but to Rouses Point, and that it goes west not just to the suburbs of Albany but to Buffalo. Great state, but as Chris indicated, I had been here, and I knew how important and how wonderful communities like Rouses Point and the North Country are. And as we are going around today and looking at how magnificent it is here, we started out in Lake Placid, and what a wonderful place. And we were there because working together, we are putting $5 million state dollars into the order facilities to rebuild the bobsled and the luge, because we are committed to making Whiteface, Gore, and all the organizations. And on my way in, I had the chance to talk for a little bit with 4 of the girls who are in the North Country Figure Skating Club, and they've been helping out, and I hope they're still up there. I can't see with the lights. But I told them, I asked them what they were going to do, and they said they were all going to be Olympic gold medalists. I think they're probably right, and we want them to have the chance to compete in the Olympics in Lake Placid and in the North Country. I don't know if you're out there, but to the girls from the North Country Skating Club, thank you for helping out. Thank you. And in Lake Placid, we went to Plattsburgh, where we announced a major corporation, Leslie County Rating, more than $500 million corporation, bringing the first 150 new jobs that they're going to bring to the area of Plattsburgh, and we have no doubt that's the beginning of many, many additional announcements like that. Most importantly, I like coming up here because I just love it. It is a great place, and we did sneak over, Senator Stafford and I, a little while ago to the Vermont side, and I'll tell you, they are lucky because they get to look at New York. I want to take you back a little bit to 1994. Because Chris mentioned how I came up and addressed the Clinton County Republicans in the fall of 1994 when I was running. And I remember very well what I said back then. And I remember how I said it. That this was a very important election. And it wasn't about replacing a Democrat with a Republican or Cuomo with Pataki. It was about changing the direction of this state and changing the policies that were failing the people of this state. And I remember what I really felt that day. And that is that what that election was about was giving us confidence in the future and our having the opportunity in the next generation, for me to visit my 4 kids down the block in the Hudson Valley or in Plattsburgh because they had decided this is where the future was, instead of having to visit them in North Carolina or Atlanta or Texas or someplace else because that's where the next generation thought the opportunities lie. And I remember that I desperately wanted to win that race because I love this state and desperately wanted us to have the future that we deserve in communities like Rouses Point. And if you take a look at where we were in 1994, we were number 1, and I said it then, in all the wrong categories. We were number 1 in the tax burden this state placed on its people. And because of that, we were number 1 in job losses instead of economic opportunity. We were number 1 in welfare dependence. And we had a system that trapped people in a failed system that encouraged dependency and penalized initiative to the point where when I took office in January of 1995, 1 in 11 residents of this state was trapped on welfare. We had a criminal justice system where a convicted violent felon, convicted of a violent felony, could get out of jail without serving 1 day in jail. And our rate of violent crime was unacceptable by any standard of a civilized society. And our correction officers, who I know many of them are here tonight, had to work in conditions and under danger that was unacceptable. And we said, give us a chance. And we're going to work to make New York State number 1 in the right categories instead of the wrong categories and give people that confidence in the future that has always been our right as New Yorkers, the right to believe that tomorrow is going to be better than today and that the next week is going to be better than this week and our children are going to have it better than us. That's what attracted people from around the country and around the world to New York. And that's what we as New Yorkers always have a right to believe. Now it's almost 3 years later. And I am very proud to tell you that this team working together, our efforts in Albany, are resulting in New York State being number 1 in all the right categories. We changed. We had a very, very difficult fight, but we changed the welfare rules before Washington required it. We're requiring work of the able-bodied so that they can develop the sense of self-worth and pride that comes from earning a check and the skills to transition to the work roles instead of the welfare roles. And today we have 409,000 fewer people on welfare than we did in January of 1995. We took a look at our criminal justice system and said it is wrong that people can get out on early release or work release without even having a job. We ended early release and work release for violent felons. We ended parole for repeat violent felons. We put the death penalty in place to protect our police officers and our correction officers. We raised the minimum sentence that violent felons had to serve. And today, our rate of violent crime in this state is down by over 26%. And this year, our rate of violent crime has dropped by more than double the national average, more than any other state in America, except Idaho and Iowa, and they don't count. We know that as New Yorkers, so I'm claiming we're number 1 in the reduction of violent crime as well. And we took a look at this state's fiscal mess. Not only were we the highest taxed people in Albany, but we had the highest property taxes, we had the worst credit rating, and when I took office, the prior administration, thanked them very much, left us with a $5 billion deficit. And we said, we're not going to do what they did. We're not going to raise taxes again. We're going to keep our pledge. We're going to balance the budget. We're going to cut taxes. And we passed a law that for 3 years in a row has made New York State the number 1 state in America in cutting taxes. And because we have restructured the state government, for 3 years in a row we have run surpluses and put money in the state's rainy day fund for the first time in over 50 years. And I might add, last year, New York State cut taxes by more than the other 49 states combined. And this year, again, New York State is cutting taxes by more than the other 49 states combined. And because of the tax cut program we got through, this August, in 1998, in 1999, in 2000, and 2001. New York State is going to cut taxes by more than any other state because they are now the law in New York State. We're going to make sure that law is implemented as we go forward. And because of that, as we all should realize, if you lower the tax burden, if you reduce the regulatory burden, if you lower workers' comp rates that drive agriculture or small business or manufacturing out of this state, you're going to have an improved economic climate. And I'll just bore you with one more statistic. In 1994, we had 73 new or expanded corporate openings in New York State, nowhere on the chart nationally. Last year, we had 511, 7 times as many corporate openings or expansions than we did just 2 years before, the 5th highest total in America. But we're not going to stop. We don't like being number 5 in creating jobs. We want to be number 1. And we're going to continue to work, and this team is going to continue to work to lead in the right categories, reducing taxes, reducing welfare dependency, reducing the rate of violent crime, and increasing the jobs and opportunity available to everyone. And Chris mentioned one other thing that we did get through this year, and that is that as I looked around the state, we were lowering income taxes and business taxes and energy taxes. But I think everyone knows that the worst tax in this state has been the property tax and the school tax homeowners pay. Too many senior citizens, including my aunt. My aunt and uncle worked all their lives. They had no mortgage. When my uncle died, she had to sell her house because the school taxes were more than she could afford. Too many senior citizens were being taxed out of their homes. Too many young couples looking to buy their first house or condominium couldn't afford it, not because of the price, but because the mortgage with the taxes was too high. Well, this year we passed that STAR program, the School Tax Reduction Program. We are finally going to use the lottery profits, more than $2 billion a year, to lower the homeowner's school tax. And when it's fully phased in, I know we don't have any senior citizens here, but someday some of you might be senior citizens. In 10 counties in this state, senior citizens are going to pay no school tax. And in Clinton County, the average senior citizen, as this is phased in, is going to see their school taxes go down by over 70%. The most dramatic decline. You know, I started out by saying, and when I think about it, my 4 grandparents came to New York because they understood that by working hard, that by saving, by encouraging education with the support of a strong community like Rouses Point, in my case, Peekskill, New York, their children and their grandchildren could see their dreams come true right in New York. For my grandparents, obviously, that did happen. And now I stand before you tonight as the governor of this magnificent state. But it shouldn't be something that was the history of New York in the 20th century. That promise and that dream has got to be the reality in New York in the 21st century. Last month, Libby and I took our oldest child off to college. And she didn't go to SUNY Plattsburgh. I encouraged her. She went to a place a lot more expensive. But worse than that, or equally important, it was out of New York State. And we took her away. And I remember it was a bittersweet occasion, and it was the college where I went, so I was very happy. But on the other hand, I was sad that she was leaving New York and leaving home. But I remember thinking that weekend as we were helping her unpack that she was going to get one of the best educations possible in America or the world, that she was going to have opportunities to go anywhere in America or the world, but thinking that when she gets through school, she was going to choose to come back to New York. Because she was going to realize that what we are doing is working. And that not just for us, but for the next generation and for the next century, the place of opportunity, the place where people's dreams can come true, the place where families can build a better future for themselves and for their children and their grandchildren is again going to be New York. And I am absolutely confident that in the 21st century, as in the 20th century, the rest of the country and the rest of the world are going to be looking to New York and saying, oh, that's New York. They're number one in all the right things. They're the Empire State. They're the place of the future. They're the place to be. So I just want to thank all of you for being here tonight, and so many of you for helping me to have the opportunity with Ron and with Chris and with John and Betty to change this state. And if there's one thing I ask you to feel tonight, it's the same sense that I have. It's absolute confidence that Rouses Point, that Clinton County, that the North County, and New York State are the place of the future, the place to live, the place to see your dreams and your children's dreams come true. Thank you very much. Great.
Thank you, Governor. Isn't that a great speech? Hey, Sheriff, thank you for coming. This evening, we will proceed with the program. Please start eating your salad. John Pasco said, for heaven's sake, we have to start eating our salad.
Where's the measurement?
We will. We'll move along. I want everyone to continue to eat. Please, everyone serving, continue to serve. We're just going to move along the program. We have a full program, and we want everyone to be able to get home in a reasonable hour. So I know that you understand why the program during the meal. For a few moments, I will allow you to enjoy your salad. Assemblyman John Paso, and I assure with you, he will be elected statewide in the not too distant future. John Paso.
Senator, thank you very much. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be here with all of you at this great Clinton County gathering. And I just wanted to extend my appreciation to Ron Stafford. He mentioned before that he gave me the first $25 in my first campaign for the Assembly, and I'm still trying to get another $25 out of him. So before I leave here tonight, I'm going to try again. It's a great honor also to be with my colleagues Betty Little and your great chairman, Chris Ortloff. Chris and I came into the Assembly the same year together, and as I'm not going to reiterate what our great governor said, but we have begun to change the direction in the state. And, you know, as Winston Churchill said at the darkest hours of World War II, when the Nazi blitzkrieg was raging over London, and the hopes of the British people were somehow uplifted by this great individual, Winston Churchill, he said, this is not the beginning of the end, but it's the end of the beginning. And George Pataki has righted the ship and the direction of this state. And it's only because of the people like Ron Stafford and Betty and Chris. But more importantly, it's because of you, my friends. It's because dedicated individuals, Republicans and right-thinking Democrats and independents around the state saw that we simply couldn't continue to do what we were doing. We couldn't export jobs and opportunity elsewhere. And that's why I'm so privileged to be a member of this great party. We stand for the individual, we stand for family, we stand for the private enterprise system, and we stand for hope and opportunity in the future. I hope that I can be running, as Ron said, perhaps for controller next year. And I can tell you that if I am fortunate enough to be our party's nominee, I will be back here. And if you forget this name, and I'm not going to talk very long here tonight because I'm about to end, but if you forget this name of who that guy was from Kinderhook, New York, that great metropolis, which is half the size of Rouses Point, if you forget the name of the guy from Kinderhook, just think, do, re, mi, fa, so, and you'll remember. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Gotta go to work.
John.
I could introduce this next. I could introduce all of our great candidates, all our great officials. I'd like to say so many good things about all of them. But we're so fortunate to have Judge John Latin serving, as I mentioned, in the tradition of the great Supreme Court judges of our county and of our judicial district. I mentioned earlier when I introduced John at the head table. John cares, John understands, John listens, and John's a scholar. And everyone can be sure, and they can be confident, that John Latin has made us proud as a judge, he's making us proud as a judge, and he will continue to make us proud as our Supreme Court Justice, the Honorable John Latin. John.
Chairman Chris, honored guests at the head table, all my good friends here at home in Clinton County. You'll be happy to know that the canon of judicial ethics precludes me from saying anything about any other candidate. Precludes me of saying anything about the job I'm going to do if I'm elected. It really precludes me from saying anything. So all I can do is ask you for your help to get me elected. I do have an opponent. He's a Schenectady attorney. We're running in the 11 counties of the 4th Judicial District, and I really like to make a good showing here, and with your help, I know I will. So all I can say is I'll see you on November 5th. We'll have another party, and we'll all congratulate each other. Thank you very much.
Good job as always, Judge John Latin. I mentioned earlier that a gentleman came home this evening. He's from this very area. I mentioned his grandfather, and if I didn't mention this also, other than cutting corn, I cut pulp with him also. Huey Phillips. But we're, again, fortunate to have a person of the caliber, stature, and ability of Mike. He understands the law. He understands law enforcement. He is out there working hard. He's going to make us proud. Our next DA, Mike Phillips. Mike.
Thank you, Senator. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the head table, it's wonderful to be here in my hometown. I was going to say to the governor, I'd welcome him to my hometown, but I never got the chance. Maybe I'll get the chance some other time. Usually I get to follow Janet Dufresne in these things, and I was a little bit on edge about that because Janet is such a fine speaker, and everybody has been a fine speaker here tonight. And I'm sure I'm going to be the worst, so once I'm done, it's going to get better. But a couple of things that got me about Janet, and I didn't really figure out what it was. One of which is that she's a better speaker than I. Of course, that annoyed me a little bit. But I figured out what really got me was that one, I'm making her choke to death here, is that she's an incumbent, and having the power of the incumbency is a wonderful thing. But mostly, she's running unopposed, and if I had that, I'd feel a little bit better. Sam Chomley, I'm sure you're out there someplace. I can't see you, Sam, but I had a little talk with John Zerlo earlier, and he's really upset with you about your introduction of him last week. I didn't get a chance to talk to you earlier, so I have to tell you now. The comparison to Jay Leno was somewhat unfair. John tells me that he's much better looking than Jay Leno, and he has a lot more money than Jay Leno. A while back, right after I passed the bar exam, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, Joe Fournier, a fellow that I spent some time in the state police with. And Joe's a bit of an armchair wit and a philosopher. And at the time, we talked about me being the first in my family to go to law school and to go to actually 4-year school and graduate. And as I said, I just passed the bar exam, and it happened to be on the first try. And my sales might have been a little too full of wind, perhaps, and Joe pretty much recognized that. And he told me that I shouldn't be real proud of passing back bars to him. And I was a little bit taken aback, and I consider Joe a very good friend of mine. And he told me that the bar exam I passed was the one they watered down so JFK could finally pass it. JFK Jr. But jokes about attorneys aside, and you've all heard the jokes about 500 attorneys at the bottom of the ocean being a good start, or how do you tell the difference between a dead attorney in the middle of the road and a dead skunk, is that the skunk has skid marks in front of it. And while those things bring a bit of a chuckle, frankly, they do offend me a little bit. I chose to be an attorney at 35 years old. I started law school when I was 35 years old. And the insanity of that decision is a whole other matter, but I reaffirmed my commitment to the law. I enjoyed being a New York State Trooper. I enjoyed the satisfaction it gave me. And I missed it. I worked for the Division of Youth for a while. That was fine, but it didn't give me the satisfaction of being back in law enforcement. So I went back to law school at the ripe old age of 35 as far as being a student, with this job in mind. And I wanted to be a prosecutor bad enough that I even applied to Mrs. Close for a job as an ADA 6 years ago. We all know how that worked out. But I'm wondering if she perhaps is having second thoughts about not hiring me, but that's another story too. I come to you with 8 years experience in the state police, which I'm going to put to good use. I was going to regale you with some stories about being a trooper, but I see Jack Lawless over there, who was my commanding officer at one time, and I'm not going to go there. I think Jack will thank you for that. I had a conversation a short time ago with Dr. George Pataki, who was not Pataki. I figured I was going to get that wrong, and I'm happy I got Pataki out. He's a professor, a retired professor at Plattsburgh State. And we were talking at that time, I hadn't seen him in quite a while, about my nomination. At that time, it was an endorsement by the Republican Party for the nomination to run for district attorney. And it came out during that conversation that, frankly, my family is mostly Democrats. My mother's a Democrat, wonderful, right here, beautiful woman sitting over here. And some of my family is Democrats. My grandparents were all Democrats. And Dr. Pataki asked me, well, with the good education that I gave you and all those Democrats in your family, how did you go wrong? And actually, I thought about it for a second, and I said, Dr. Pataki, the question is, how did I go right? And it's a fair question. I went right because I'm the son of the North Country. I have values and roots here. I went right because of the way my mother raised me. And I will bring those things to the office of the district attorney. I was going to regale you with some stories of our family, but my brother Dan said, no family stories. And if any of you know my brother Dan, when Dan says no, it's no. That's it. Dan, would you stand up and tell people why I'm so afraid? I'm proud to say that table I got quite a few of my family on it, and Dan's a correction officer at Clinton, and Greg, who's here tonight, is a correction officer at Franklin. And on top of that, my mother is here, as I said before, she's sitting over here at the side table, and there's really nothing about our family that is remarkable, certainly nothing that, say, Time magazine would want to write a featured article about. If some of you folks don't know about that, read Time for the past couple of months. It'll come to you. In any event, I am very serious about being the district attorney of this county. I have been there, I've been on both sides of the aisle as a defense counsel and as a law enforcement officer. I pledge to you that the things that I learned that my parents need, sometimes over my parents' need, I will take with me there. Honesty, truth, and a sense of justice. With your help, on November 4th, I will change the office of the district attorney. I will be the primary prosecutor here. I will protect our correction officers and other prison staff by vigorously prosecuting inmate offenders. I will vigorously prosecute offenders against children. I'm going to say one short little trooper story. And it will be short. I saw Judge Moore today. Most of you know Judge Moore. Those of you from Rouses Point, he's a retired village justice. And back a long time ago, I was driving through Rouses Point, and somebody flagged me down over here where the Saxony used to be, and I was in a troop car. And they said, there's this little kid in the car. So I went over there, and sure enough, in the back seat of his car, there's this little guy laying there. He was 4 or 5 years old, maybe. And I got very upset. And I sent the bouncer into the Saxony to get this guy. I got a data on his car. And the guy came out, and he was about half Mocus. And I arrested him. I immediately arrested him for endangering the welfare of a child. And that was 20-some years ago. Nowadays, we hear about it all the time. But my commitment to children and their protection started back then. I took the gentleman to Judge Moore's chambers, and Judge Moore immediately put him in jail. And Judge Moore and his wife took the little guy in for the night and kept him, which I'm eternally thankful for the judge backing me on that. The next day, my sergeant, who I have enormous respect for still to this day, and I've been retired 16 years now, chewed me up one side and down the other. He said, you never arrest a parent for endangering the welfare of their own child. And I thought about that for a second, and I said, Sarge, said, you might as well bring me up on charges now, because if it happens again, I'll arrest him. I look around here tonight and I see some people that have qualities and values that I will try to emulate in the office of the district attorney. I see people like Marinas Rovers, one of the hardest working people in the world. I'll take that with me there. I will take, hopefully, the dignity of people like Bill Favreau, Tom Bernane, into the office. And dignity comes to mind when I look at Melissa Penfield and courage. I will take that there with me as well. I will take a sense of humor, I hope, from persons like Candy Luck and John Zerlo.
Can I sit with you?
I will take the enthusiasm of a Rebel Hicks.
You got me creamer first.
Hopefully combine them on your behalf. Thank you.
Very well done, Mike. Next, a lady who you've introduced a number of times, but you can't introduce her enough, as I've said. Does a great job as our county treasurer, a great Republican, just a great person. Janet Duplin. Janet.
Thank you, Senator Ron. Chris, Betty, people at the head table, honored guests. You're all honored guests. What a fantastic turnout. Bill Favreau and your committee, congratulations. You did it. It is such a privilege for me to stand here tonight and know that because of the support that you folks have given me for the past several years, I have the opportunity to serve you for 4 more years. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for the trust that you've put in me. And I can assure you that I will do everything I can do for the next 4 years to again live up to it. I know it's because of the support that all of you have given me at the polls, that all of you through your committees have given to me, and I'm eternally grateful, and I don't get a chance to tell all of you that enough. So I thank you. We all know none of us have been here as long as Senator Ron Stafford. I have been here for over 20 years. And this is the first time ever that I've had the pleasure of running with a full slate of county candidates. And I want to congratulate our chairman, Chris Ortloff, and all the local chairs who were out there and worked hard to come up with 10 outstanding legislative candidates. I've campaigned in every corner of this county with them, and it's your job now to get them elected. They've put themselves on the line to run as your candidate. Now you have to produce. We're doing some great things in Clinton County government, and I'm proud to be a part of it. We will continue to do great things if you give us back a Republican majority. I know Don's going to speak to some of the issues, and so I'm not going to go into any details, but we're going to bring to each of you, starting in January, everyone who lives outside of the city will now have the opportunity to pay your taxes in 4 equal installment payments, and next September your school taxes in 3 installments. I had a lady break down in tears in my office yesterday when I told her she was going to be able to start doing that in January. That is a privilege that our taxpayers deserve, that they want, that they really need, and I'm pleased to be a piece of that. We've been lowering the tax rate because the legislators have been progressive. We have one of the lowest debts of any county government in the state of New York. I'm proud of that. And we, along with that, have a real comfortable fund balance. Our county is in outstanding financial condition. I'd love to have John Faso as the controller in another year and have the opportunity to work with him on the state level as I enjoy working with the legislators on the county level. So I want to say to all of you, if you do your part in helping us in electing Republican legislators, I guarantee you, absolutely guarantee you, that we will do our part in continuing the financial stability of Clinton County. Thank you for giving me your support.
As always, great job, Janet. Well, here, as Janet so well stated, about our great legislators and legislative candidates in a few minutes from our great chairman, Don Garrett. I would like to point out that there's a letter from John McHugh in the program. John's doing a great job. We have no idea the district that he has in Congress. Not only has to be in Washington, but it goes from the Mohawk Valley to the Herkimer, and I know something about that. I know what it's like to get down there, to the Great Lakes, Jefferson County, to Lake Champlain, Mohawk Valley, Canadian border, Lake Champlain, Jefferson County, Great Lakes. Does a great job for us, has an excellent letter in our book, and let's have a round of applause for our great Congressman, John McHugh. I was going to say continue to enjoy your dinner. Getting my notes, and what a great time in our program. I mentioned Betty Little. Again, I knew Betty when she served on the Warren County Board of Supervisors. She was a tireless worker then. Like so many others, but I think it should be said, she believes in what she does. She is all over her district. And as I said, and I believe that's correct, Betty, 1,000 miles in the last, say, 72 hours, that's better. She said a week. But on a serious note, Betty Little is a person who you're proud to serve with. And I know Chris is, and I know John is. She is heard in Albany. She represents our area with dignity, with tremendous ability, and she's always there when we need her or call upon her. Betty, great to have you with us. I present to you Assemblyperson Betty Little.
Thank you very much for those kind words. It's an honor for me to be here tonight, to be with the honored guests at the head table, with all of the elected officials here, with the candidates, the fine candidates that we have for the Republicans in Clinton County, for all of the voters in Clinton County, and for all of our great hardworking Republican committee people who are here today. It's also an honor to have welcomed the governor to the North Country, and the things that he said are really true and are happening, and we're seeing the changes in New York State that we have all been hoping for a long time. As part of his program today, not only did he announce new jobs in Clinton County, but the funding, the beginning funding of the luge and bobsled run in Lake Placid. And I think the significance of that is that by funding those venues and trying to make the improvements that are necessary there, that's going to help the whole Adirondack region, and it's going to help us let everyone know we are serious in our bid to try to get an Olympics back in this area. Because even if we don't get an Olympics, and I truly believe if we work at it, we could, we are getting publicity for the Adirondack region each and every time that's written in the paper. So I thank the governor for that, and I truly thank him for coming so many times to the North Country. I'd like to just say the one thing I'm really happy about this year is that I don't have to run for election. But I'll be back next year. But I truly ask you to support, and I know that you will support all of those Republican candidates in Clinton County. And I also ask you to get out and get the word out that these people are good Republicans who support the philosophy of smaller government, of lower taxes, of reducing the crime, of improving opportunities, helping to get people off welfare and get them into the workplace. These are the things that are important to our whole way of life here, and these candidates all support this. And it's good for every man and woman in this county to try to support our candidates. So get the word out and help them, as I know that you're going to, and we'll have a victory for all of them on Election Day. Thank you.
Good job. Betty. When anyone introduces Don Garrett, words are inadequate to really explain and to describe Don's dedication, his commitment. He takes it seriously. He loves the job. And it is evident from the job he and his colleagues have done on the county legislature. You see in the program, as Jan mentioned, they made commitments. They had goals. They kept their commitments and they made their goals. Don has provided that tremendous leadership. And we have such a great county legislature. We have great legislators running for re-election. We have great candidates for the legislature. And our great chairman is going to say a few words and introduce that great slate of candidates. The Honorable Don Garrett from Ward 6 in the old days. Don?
Ron, you wouldn't think that I enjoyed my job so much as to talk to my wife every once in a while. Thank you, Ron and Chris, and all of you out there for all you do to make the Republican Party such an outstanding success. You know, in politics, it's easy to promise, but it's very difficult to deliver. And I'm proud to say that my 5 colleagues and myself, the majority of the Clinton County Legislature, have delivered and kept their word to the people of this county. 2 years ago, we made some pledges. When we were seeking control of the county legislature, we made 9 pledges, and they're listed in your booklet. And the only pledge we were unable to honor was the one where we wanted to move 7 meetings a year of the legislature during our 2-year term to each of the towns. Seven meetings to 7 towns 1 year, 7 towns the next year. We thought it would be good to bring county government closer to the people. Now, in order to do that, we had to have 7 votes. We had only 6 votes, and the Democrats wouldn't vote for it. So that's the only pledge we were unable to keep. And last December, our first year in the majority, we passed the largest tax cut since the Clinton County Legislature was organized in 1968. Your Republican legislators cut more than $1.5 million from the budget without cutting services. And depending on the equalization rate for the various municipalities, the tax rate was reduced by a record 43% in one town and 20 and 30% in the other towns. That's a great feat that we performed. Now, time does not permit me to talk about all the things that happened. It's in the booklet. But I would like to go back and talk just a little bit about tax installment. We're going to have a tax installment system. Many people have said to us over the years, we'd like to pay our town or school taxes in installments. And it's been talked about for years in the county legislature. But I think we in the majority, along with our great advisor, Jan Dupre, our treasurer, the treasurer's got to be committed to this program. It's impossible to do. And she certainly was committed to tax installment. And so that's coming to being. And we put the question of term limits, as we said we would 2 years ago, to the voters. And they approved 12-year term limits for legislators without any doubt. They approved that. And then they showed how much they appreciated what we did by giving us 3-year terms instead of 2-year terms. And we certainly appreciated that in the same county referendum. And that passed by 3-1, by the way, the 3-year terms. On other accomplishments included passage of legislation which provided tax exemptions for veterans and senior citizens. We firmly believe that those who paid their dues deserve our thanks and not a tax burden. Clinton County has a number of efficiency improvements since the Republicans took control of the county legislature. We've developed a countywide computer program. Heretofore, computer disks from the Social Services Department had to be hand carried to the government center. You can imagine in this day and age of technology. And our telephone system, which is antiquated, is being upgraded. And we produced a 10-year master plan of preventive maintenance for our 12 county buildings. Remember, we have 12. You may not think of that. We have 12 county buildings, highway, airport, those are all county facilities. But most important, our county is in excellent fiscal health. Our debt is among the lowest in New York State's 62 counties. We have shown a steady decrease in percent of our tax limits, going from 35% 3 years ago to 28% last year. And of particular importance is the fact that Clinton County is less reliant on the property tax and the sales tax as a percentage of total revenue. And what does this say? It indicates that we get funding from other sources, such as state and federal aid. And there's more good news. I've just recently learned that the social services budget for 1998 in Clinton County will show a $700,000 reduction. That's great news. That'll help us reduce the tax rate again, hopefully. We believe that the Republican-controlled legislature will continue to provide leadership that you can trust. Thanks for your support 2 years ago. Please help us again, not to achieve a majority, but to win all 10 seats. Thank you very much. Now I would like to introduce some of the people who've been with us these past 2 years. And before I forget him, I'm going to introduce the man whose name I don't have on this sheet. But when he was elected in a special election 2 years ago, a year ago last March, he gave us the majority in the legislature, and things started to happen down there at the government center. And I'd like to introduce a man who's been very supportive. He's an outstanding legislator, and he's a good friend, the Honorable Jim Blaze. Jim? My other colleagues who are here tonight, from Area 2, the Deputy Chairman of the Legislature, the great Sam Tremblay. Area 2. He's the guy that's throwing kisses at everybody. Area 3, a freshman legislator, but he's just been outstanding in his work for the health department and his work as someone who's interested in his constituents. Joe Giroux from Area 3. Senior County State. A newcomer from Area 4 who's going to make an outstanding legislator. He's working hard, going door to door. Steve Bouye. A young man who's going to retire from the practice of law and be a full-time legislator from Peru, Sable, Tim Lawless. From Area 8, a young lady who, if she does what her husband does, she'll be extremely successful and she'll never lose, Laverne Hicks, Area 8. And last but not least, the young man who's going his second time around his legislative district to meet people who he missed before. Can you imagine going to the second time? George Rabideau, former lieutenant of the Plattsburgh Police Department. George?
Thank you, Don. Finally, and I know you're very pleased to hear that word finally, but again, on a serious note, in introducing our chairman, I would like to quote from the words of Theodore Roosevelt, who's a hero to all of us, including our governor who is here tonight. And he said, I quote, "It is not the critic who counts. The credit belongs to the man or woman in the arena who strives valiantly, who knows there is no effort without error, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself or herself in a worthy cause. His or her place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory or defeat." Chris Ortloff has known victory. And thanks to him, we have all known victory and are going to continue to know victory. Please stand, our chairman, Chris Ortloff.
Our success tonight and our inspiration is due in no small measure to your leadership and your example. Let's give a big hand. Now, with Father Cody's permission, you'll hear from him in just a moment. I didn't ask his permission to tell this story, and if I'm mistaken in telling it, we'll settle it up later, Father. But I know your sense of humor is at least as good as anyone in the room, and you've entertained me many times with it. It seems a Sunday not long ago, Father Cody looked out in the parish church, and he noted the absence of a prominent local agriculturalist. So after the Mass was done and the last parishioner had left the church, he put on his windbreaker and set out on foot to find out why the farmer had not attended Mass. And as he approached the rather impressive establishment, he found the farmer mending the fence along the side of the road. Before Father Cody could ask his question, he was regaled immediately by, "Father, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Just look at my barns, Father. They are the most magnificent barns anywhere in the North Country. They've been written up in magazines." And Father Cody began to get his word in when the farmer went on. "And my milking barn, Father, the most modern, computerized, tied in with the feeding system. I know every ounce of every bit of feed every cow has ingested, and I can compare it to the milk the cow puts out." And again, Father tried to get a word in, and he was unable to. And this went on and on and on. "Look at my cows. Look at that one there, blue ribbon at the state fair." On and on and on. And even a man with the most generous and saintly of hearts began to lose his patience when the farmer took a breath and Father Cody said, "What you say is self-evident. With my eyes, I can see it too. But I do think that you ought to, at least on this day of the Lord, give the Lord a little credit for helping you along the way." And the farmer, without pausing for one more breath, said, "Oh, I do, Father, I do. But confidentially, you should have seen the place when he was running it all by himself." if there's a moral that I'm drawing from that story, is that teamwork's important. Even if you're hooked up with the Lord, you better give him credit, and you better be a little humble about it. I also want to mention our local county legislator, Celine Paquette, who could not be with us tonight because she's traveling in a foreign country, evidently trying to win votes over there as well. And I'm sure she'll succeed. It's been a wonderful evening. A real cause to celebrate. As chairman of this great party, I want to add my personal thanks to Bill Favreau and his committee for this record-setting event. This has been the largest political dinner ever held by any party in Clinton County, partly because this dinner was and is open to all. We're an inclusive party, and we must spread that word because therein lies not only our success, but benefit and gain for all the people. We also thank the village board, Mayor Tom Beth, the trustee George Rivers, Mike O'Brien and the staff here at the Civic Center, the entire village board for welcoming us here and making this facility possible. Thanks to the Republican County Committee and the town committees that make the party strong and do the people's business in every neighborhood, every part of the county. And thanks to the candidates for stepping forward, putting yourselves, your families, your reputations, and yes, your egos on the line to serve the public. Win or lose, candidates, you make our form of free self-government work just by being candidates, and a grateful public salutes you. Thanks to each and every one who came tonight, who bought a ticket, helped us raise a record amount of money to buy the advertising, the postage, the gas to get around the county, the means to spread our candidates' message. Without you and your support, we would all be whistling in the dark tonight with no one listening. Instead, people are listening, hearing, and taking to heart our Republican message of tax cuts, job growth, relief from too much government, freer people with more opportunities to be everything they can and everything they want to be. You see, I believe, and I know you do too, that ideas matter. And good ideas gain and earn a larger following every time they're expressed. And with all the announcements that have been made today, there is one more. One I've been waiting over 2 years to make. One that is possible only because our message, because our candidates, our governor, our congressman, our senator, all our elected officials and volunteers have been spreading far and wide a message that has taken root in the hearts and minds of the average voter. Many of you are here tonight, here among us for the first time. Let me take this opportunity to say welcome on behalf of all the rest of us. And I hope you'll join me in welcoming all the new members of our party. No, it's the first axiom of politics, is that you have to be able to count. And I understand, I've always known there are three kinds of people in the world: those who can count and those who can't. And now that you know which part I belong to, let me hope you belong to the other, because I'm about to read you 3 sets of numbers. And if you can count, as I obviously hope I would be able to, you will be interested, to say the least, in this announcement. I am pleased tonight to announce that for the first time in this decade, Clinton County voters have switched their allegiance. For the first time in this decade, as of this afternoon, more voters belong to the Republican Party in this county than any other party. Here are the numbers reported by the Board of Elections this afternoon. The second leading party in Clinton County, the Democratic Party, 15,333. Republicans, 15,364, plus 31. Now, just 4 years ago, it it was minus 897. Now, why has that happened? As I conclude here tonight, and as we prepare to go out and conduct ourselves in the next 4 weeks prior to that most important date in this democracy, Election Day, let me put this in what I hope is the proper perspective. Your applause, my fellow Republicans, is not for a victory of party, but for the opportunity of our party to lead, to win elections, and in so doing put our ideas and our ideals into practice. Because that victory is one in which all the people win. That victory is one which benefits all people, old and young, citizen and immigrant, Republican and Democrat. That victory comes only because of this. We run as Republicans to serve all the people. And as long as we do that, as long as we remain true to the needs and the values and the visions of the people, we will earn their support, and we will deserve it. So as we leave this wonderful historic event tonight, Republicans, Democrats, guests, and members alike, let us celebrate together the new vision, the new hope, and the new era, so convincingly expressed by our governor, so appropriately symbolized by our emergence as the leading party in this county. May we be true to the vision of Thomas Jefferson, who founded the original Republican Party, and Abraham Lincoln, who brought it back to abundant and full life in his time. Jefferson and Lincoln's vision of freedom and equality and opportunity is now ours to carry into a new century. Let us all do our part. Let us each do our part. And our country, our county, and each of our communities will thrive and prosper in peace and security into that bright new century. Thank you. God bless. Safe travel home, and good night.
Thank you, Chris. Great job. I now ask Kathy Karen from the Clinton County Republican Women's Association to please come forward for a presentation. How are we doing for time? I clapped so hard, the governor was here, I broke my watch. We're coming. We're right on schedule. We're right on schedule. Kathy, Chris?
As treasurer and representative of our president of the Clinton County Republican Women's Association, I am proud to announce that this year we were in a position to contribute directly to the campaigns of the 8 women members of our association that are running for office in the November election. In keeping with our mission statement to provide financial support to the Republican candidates of Clinton County, we would like to present 2 checks tonight. Assemblyman Ortla, as chairman of the Clinton County Republican Committee, please accept this check for candidate support from the Clinton County Republican Women's Association. I would now ask that Lori Cantwell come forward. In the absence of Warren Manor, the chairman of the City Republican Committee, Lori Cantwell is willing to accept this check for candidate support from our association. Very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kathy. We all thank you. But also want to point out that John May, who is a sitting member of the County Board of Legislators, doing a great job, had commitments in his district, which is very understandable. And Sherm Hamill, who is a candidate for the county legislature, is about to become a grandfather and is at the hospital with his family. So we certainly salute both who will be, one will be re-elected and the other will be elected. It's a pleasure now to present Reverend Cote. We have to have a drawing first.
We appreciate that. They also supplied us a lighted Festive church both prepared ceramic type, prepared by Lynn Cromley of Ellenburg.
Draw it, Bill.
On the third item, third door prize item is a Adirondack painting painted by Jim Dowdle, and the framing was done by Wood and Glass Shop. All of these items have been donated.
Number one. The numbers are 772-2969. On the blue ticket. I've been instructed. I'll read the number again. The number again is, on the blue ticket, 772-2969. Right up, right up. Blue ticket. Come on up. There we are. And we'll draw the next one. Congratulations. Again, blue ticket, 367-1065. Hey! Final blue ticket number will be 772-2995. Let me read it once more. Blue ticket number 772-2995. Blue ticket. Oh, he's been delivered. Thank you. All right, everybody have their ticket? 772-2905. I'll read it once more. 772-2905. All right, Betty, we'll draw another ticket. Under the O. All right, blue ticket, 772-2758. Congratulations. This is such a tremendous job. I'm going to let Bill Favreau give you the numbers. This is tremendous. Bill?
I didn't even. The total of the 50-50 is $1,240. So this drawing is for $620. And that's thanks to Lynn, Howard, and Betty Arno, who sold all of those tickets. The number is red ticket 548 7 9 8 9. Right up. Thank you. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce a good friend, close friend, for our benediction.
We have to recognize one thing, O Lord, that our first responsibility is unto you, who lives above. It is far greater than our pursuit of labor, play, or love. Far more than to the glory that we can receive, the fame that we could achieve, or any other earthly principle in which we could and might believe. For all of our possessions, and even the very life that we live, are basically your benefit that you gave us, O Lord. And without your help, we could not speak, nor could we walk, or even lift the hand. Nor could we have the human mind to think, and even try to understand. We ask you to bless our country, our families, our state, our locality. They all have a place here on this side. We want first, as we said earlier,